Hello and welcome to the next episode of Advanced Blueprint Tutorials. In this episode we will mainly focus on the 4.26 update and setting up some IK setup. So first of all, changes to animation. First of all, I renamed the animation component to be just called AGR Animation Master instead of Animation Master Component. It's obvious that it's a component because it's a component class. Skeleton, mesh, and physics asset, they are all starting with AGR at the front, so it's a lot easier to find it in the context browser. So when you are picking a mannequin skeleton to import into, you won't have to pick one of 30 that are named the same, because this one will always be named differently. Now in the animation component, there is a ragdoll start and a ragdoll end event dispatcher that you can hook up to and listen for ragdoll events. There's a small rework for ragdoll, so it's better looking a bit and reacts better to the environment. I also added AGR ragdoll animation notification, so you can set up a def animation that will go into ragdoll from a certain point of time. And there were some small replication issues that were only visible on local multiplayer, so they all got fixed. For the combat component, there's a begin attack and end attack event dispatcher. Now it also contains the attack tag from the input buffer. There are hit traced events dispatchers. And of combo event dispatcher, so we know when the combo is being reset by hand or by timer. And there's a lot of bug fixes that, for example, didn't properly reset combo, didn't necessarily allow us to start combat after resetting the combo. Sometimes setting new attacks at runtime, for example, when you pick up a new weapon, didn't register those attacks properly. There were some small targeting issues that I fixed. And there were some small issues with animation replication for combat, but they're all solved right now. And that gets us to 4.26 update. I made a new branch on the repository which is called 4.25, and this is the final update for 4.25. All new updates will be implemented only to 4.26, but I will try to make them at least workable on 4.25, so you can just download both versions and make a merge. So the master branch will be the newest version, whatever it will be. Right now it's 4.26.0. I also made some improvements to the IK system itself, so the nodes that were already in place. And I also added two new plugins that it will ask you to download from Marketplace. Both of those plugins are forever free. One of them is called Power IK, and the second one is Easy Ballistics. Easy Ballistics will get its own tutorial, but today we will cover Power IK, simple foot placing example. So let's begin with that. Okay, so first of all, I will disconnect this targeting event, because as it was set up previously, we were testing our targeting. So whenever I click, if there was a target that met specific variation, it was getting sticky for our camera to try to target this actor, and if another actor that better meet the criteria is being selected, we'll focus him. Okay, so we don't need this right now, so just disconnect that but not delete it completely. We also don't need those guys that are just standing and looking at us, so we'll delete them as well. And let's focus on the IK animations themselves. So right now, when we are moving, for example, on stairs, the camera is quite steady. It's a bit shaky, but thanks to camera lock, it's almost unnoticeable. But the character is just floating. And if we do show collision, we can see that this is because of how the capsule component is reacting to the environment. and how our perching setting and stepping setting is working with those stairs. So let's do something about that. Let's make this character walk on stairs properly. Okay, so first of all, just go into plugins, make sure that Power Arcade is enabled. It's a free plugin, so anyone can use it, and got a few really cool features. So we'll cover just one of them in this video. So this is the animation graph. We're not changing anything to anything in here, except we'll add IK right here for our base locomotion final pose that is being used in the final blend. So let's go and do a Power IK. Oh no, not like this. Power IK ground. So we want to ground our character. Let's do this, and from the start it will not do anything yet. We need to do some basic setup. So character root, so the root of all the bones that we'll be manipulating is pelvis. So any relation to will be done through the pelvis, and the root of the character is also being moved when there is certain height difference detected. By the way, oh no, this character is just floating a bit. I wonder why that is. Let's see here. No, this is done correctly. It's maybe because one of our IK nodes. Let's see. No, it didn't change anything. Okay, I was wondering if we broke something, but not. But we'll fix that in a second. So let's go here. Character root is pelvis. Solver alpha is 1. Alpha of the entire node is 1. Okay, and we're not touching any of those options for now. I will show you what they do later. That's actually a very nice segment, but we will go here into feet, and we'll add 2 feet. One will be foot left. The second one will be called foot R. And we are again not changing anything, no position pulling, no negative pulling, nothing. Compile, and now we have those feet position. When we have this selected, we can see where those bones are for the IK solver. And now we go into ground collision, and we need to pick our collision channel. And a good practice is to actually have a special collision just for IK, so you can enable and disable it based on what you need. So let's do it right now. So we'll go here into project settings, and we'll find collision, object channel or trace channel. We want to make a new trace channel, so we'll add a trace channel and we'll call it foot IK, for example. And our default response will be block. So we want everything to block this channel, but not really. So we'll do accept. And the default for any new object type or any new trace or anything that we do, any new preset that we do, will be block. But we can change the defaults based on whatever presets we have here. So let's go into no collision, edit, and this is the no collision. Wow, interesting. Okay, so let's leave it like this. Overlap all, block all. Okay, so block all doesn't need to be changed because it's block all. Overlap all, edit, well, then overlap all. Accept. Block all dynamic doesn't have to be changed. Overlap all dynamic has to be changed. Ignore only pound, edit. So this should ignore pound, so it doesn't matter for our foot IK. Cancel. Overlap only pound, definitely ignore on this one. Accept. Okay, now pound we definitely want it to ignore. Spectator pound, definitely ignore. Character mesh, no, this is definitely ignore. However, you might want to have IK on dead bodies, but dead bodies will no longer be character mesh. They will have physics actor or ragdoll preset. So on physics actor, we want it to block. Destructible, we want it to block, so we don't have to change anything. Invisible wall, definitely we do not want it to block. Invisible wall dynamic, definitely ignore. Trigger volumes, definitely ignore. Ragdoll, leave it at block, we want it to block, or maybe we don't, that depends on you. Vehicle, when we are inside a vehicle, we'll probably ignore, but right now we'll do block, because you might want to be able to stand on a vehicle properly, so on a car or something like that. UI, definitely ignore. And water body collision, well, definitely ignore. Okay, and that's it. Now we have a new preset, and if we go here and we'll go into our capsule and we'll go into collision preset, unfortunately we set it to custom, and because it is custom it didn't update this setting to anything else than default, so we have to do ignore by hand. We have to go here and do custom ignore by hand as well. Okay, so now IK will ignore our capsule, so it will not self-collide, and will ignore our mesh, so it will not try to stand with our foot on top of our own head. That's good, for sure. So now we want to pick this. So, oh. Save. Foot IK, yeah, here it is. Trace complex, yes, and now raycast up and down, 400 units. That's absolutely crazy. We don't see those lines, but this is crazy spec. Let's say that we'll go 55 units down, which is 10 more than the step height, I guess. Let's see. What's the step height? Yeah, max step height that we can walk on is 45 up. Maybe let's make it like 60. So let's say that 2 steps overall difference is the max that we want, so 90. So we go 60 and only 30 up. Okay, so that's 90 overall. Ground slope will not touch any of these for now, but we might. The lean and counter lean later on. That depends if we're doing third person or first person perspective. We're not touching any of it, okay. Oh wait, or maybe we are. This is the stride, this is leaning, counter leaning, and this is leaning forward and backward, not sideways. Rotate foot to ground normal. Well, yes, definitely rotate foot to ground normal, but we want to limit our roll to, let's say, let's leave it at 60. But you know what? That could be crazy. 60 of almost 90. Let's make it 0.4. We're not touching this, and we're not touching this. Offset feet position, yes, please. And this is the just basic offset of this. Let's see. -4. Okay, let's not play with this for now. Let's finish the setup and then we will play with it a little. Okay. Okay, bend direction. This is also important. Bone name. What's the bone name for knees? Because we want to lock knees in certain directions. So foot, and this is calf. Okay, so calf. Calf left, and the second one will be calf right. And Y1, is it correct? Guess. Let's do a 0. No, it didn't change anything. So I think this should be okay. Excluded bones, no. Joints limits, so we're not touching this for now. That's a bit more complex. Solver settings, we might want to bump it up to 6 if we want to, but for now let's not. LOD threshold -1, which means that it will always do the solver. If we had LOD on the character, we could, for example, do foot IK only for LOD 0 and 1 and ignore it on 2. Then we would set just 2. And if the LOD level settings is 2 or higher, it will ignore this node completely. It will be a lot lighter, but we don't have LODs for this character, so let's make it 1 and alpha, and that's it. I think that's everything. Okay. Okay, yeah. So let's see it. Okay, so right now the character is actually doing IK properly, and he should. Oh yeah, that's creepy. And this is the right leg. So let's go back here and let's go into our. Oh yeah, here. So bend direction. So for the left leg, y is 1, but for this it should be -1. Okay. Okay, so now it's bending properly, but it's still acting a bit weird sometimes. Okay, this is right. Okay, let's do it like this. So we are now strafe walking, it will be easier. Let's make the tracking a bit higher even. So let's say that it's not 60, it's 75 and 45. That's crazy numbers, but let's do it. And let's see how it looks like. Okay. Okay, not bad. Not bad already. But now when we are walking on stairs, he will do this crazy thing when he's bouncing up and down and shaking incredibly. And our camera is pretty stable because it's bound to the capsule, and the capsule is not doing all that shaky movement all that much because the character, when he's being dragged down by the stairs, the root of the character, so the pelvis, is being dragged down as well. And in order to make it more smooth and not looking like this, we'll have to actually a bit break the solver, because right now when we walk here, you can see that his feet is a bit sunken into the stairs before the solver is able to correct it. So if we increase the solver smoothness to a higher value like 300, and now we run it, the feet will adjust to the surface a lot faster. But the shakiness on the stairs is actually a lot worse, like a lot worse. But when you're moving really fast, you won't notice that the feet are sinking or not. Only when you are static, you can see that. But the way that he's adjusting the height is just crazy. So let's, instead of increasing this value, let's decrease it. Let's say something really small, like 60. The default was 200. So let's see now. Okay, he's not shaking that much now. He's still shaking when he's adjusting, but not that much. And when you are standing still, you can see that he's adjusting a bit slower, but also his pelvis is adjusting a bit slower, which makes it a lot more nice and smooth. And if we were in first-person perspective, that would be even more noticeable. But even right now, it's a lot better. So let's improve it even more. Let's say that this 60 stays here. Okay, we have the pool, this will stay the same. Okay, so let's boost up the solver itself. So let's change max iteration from 3 to 6. Like, we shouldn't do that unless we have really small number of characters on screen, because that will be a lot heavier on the CPU. But now it runs literally twice as smooth. And when you stand still, there is very little shakiness when he's adjusting the feet. Even if we go slow-mo 0.2, oh, you can see that he is sinking in the floor because of the solver being slow, but you can also see him adjusting for each frame. It's not really that bad. And yeah, at least the animations look smooth. He is sinking, but it's smoother. But what you see in real time is actually this, when he's not moving. When he's moving, it's less important. But let's say we want to make it a bit better, 120. Well, you can adjust this value as you like, until you're happy with it. So let's see if when he's standing, is he floating really? Our camera doesn't allow it too much, but it seems that he got proper contact with the floor with his feet, so we don't have to adjust them at all. And let's add a ramp so we can actually test some stuff. So let's even just add a basic shape, put it at 30 degrees and scale it, and we got a ramp. Let's play and let's see how he is placing his feet at 30 degrees angle. Okay, I don't see any bad location of knees, so that looks okay. And feet is adjusting, it's a bit sinky, so we might want to actually adjust the foot position a bit. So let's go here into foot position offset and let's make it a small value, let's say 4. I mean it's I think in centimeters. Yeah, that's a lot better. So that value would be actually different for every character if they have the same position for bones but have different structural proportions. Okay. What else we can change? So the basic is that you have to send bend direction. If you don't do that, your knees will just go crazy sometimes. You might do a joint limit on knees or on hips, probably preferably on hips. If you have a crouch position that has your leg on sideways, you might want to limit your hips. And all those directions, they are, well, like it said, directions. So it doesn't matter if the value is, I don't know, 50 or 1, it's still just a vector direction. So whatever, it is just a normalized vector. So it is from -1 to 1, and not much more to it. It's a shame you cannot bind only this value. You have to bind the entire setting. So this entire ground slope setting, that's a bit of a pity. But you can just bind it and you can read from the character directly his state. So you could, for example, do forward trace and back trace, and you could notice that you are on a ramp or on a stairs, and you would even know the angle of the stairs, and you could add some stuff depending on that. There's one more really cool setting I want to show you, and it is this: apply inertia to body. And it's said that it is smoothing the root motion, but it's actually doing something a lot cooler. So let me show you. If you allow that and you do not allow spring at all, and you play, you will see that your character is more stable. When it comes down to his position versus the position of the capsule itself. So this is a very nice setting for first-person perspective games, because if you have animations like this idle animation that is just breathing and moving around, it makes all the movement a bit more smooth, and I can show you a better example of that in a second on mock-up animations. But this is quite cool, and if you go here and you will do add spring, so let's even leave it as it is, it will add on walking some of that bounciness up and down. But now you can see that the head position is on the up-down axis almost steady, and it's just shaking a little bit. The entire body is swinging left and right, but the center of the body, so the hips and the head, are staying online. So that's really good for FPS animations. Normally when I would set up FPS animations, I would just for mockup animations, I would take the first frame of the idle animation and make it a separate animation that is just one frame, and then I would turn the entire idle animation as additive animation to this one frame animation. And if you are seeing your character from third perspective, you would play this additive animation with full strength, and you would see all these cool little motions of swaying and adjusting, targeting, all that. But if you go into first person perspective, you no longer play this additive, so you get one frame of just solid stance, and you aiming at one particular point, and it will allow you to aim, and you won't even know that the third person perspective or multiplayer perspective player sees a different thing than you do. Okay, yet another setting in the PowerIK ground is for those lean, and now they're not being fully procedural. This is like the scaling of leaning that is being detected automatically. So if the front foot and left foot, they have a difference of elevation, it is assuming that you're moving on a slope, and this is a fair assumption. So if you allow lean and counter lean, which means that lean, it will lean the entire body from the root, so from the pelvis, it will tilt the entire character, and then counter tilt just one part of it, so for example head. But I would actually do a spine 03 because I want to rotate the hands as well. Let's see if it didn't break anything. Yeah, that's not so bad. So what it does, it reduces the shakiness that normally goes up and down, and it is swaying your character front and back. And because of this setting, if you have leaning and counter leaning and move root, you can now increase the solver delta smoothness back to 200 or even 300, and it's still not that shaky on stairs. It looks quite okay. And now when you are standing still, the solver will be a lot faster. And it will adjust a lot faster also when you're running, and you will no longer see this foot sinking in motion. Well, I couldn't see it anyway, but this way you are sure you won't. Okay, so that's a lot faster. That's a setting I wouldn't use for first person, because that's shaking forward and backward the entire character. That would be terrible from first person perspective. But for third person perspective, this makes everything a lot more smooth and works a lot better. As for the stride, if you do scale stride, it will actually make your steps longer or shorter if you are on angle surface. So if you walk here, you will see that those animation actually makes the steps shorter. But if you go into the strafing animation, now you walk here, it will just be ridiculous. And you can see the swaying and counter swing. So my weapon is still being held in place as should be, but the rest of the body is doing this crazy thing. So in first person, that would be terrible. And I'm not using striding at all. And when it comes down to move root, you can disable that as well. And the foot IK itself will try to counter this lack of root movement, but it will be more shaky thanks to that. It will be more shaky left and right, and forward and backward. So if you use this, even on default settings, your character will shake a lot less. He will still do that, but a lot less. As he's shifting the root already by assuming what angle you are moving at and where the next place that your body need to be will be. So as you are moving in a straight line, it's a lot better. When you are making a lot of movement, it's still pretty smooth. So yeah. You can try different settings for those. They're pretty easy to work with. Okay, so this is the basic setup for IK. And we can then do more stuff with it later on. I just need to make some more experiments because Power IK got two more really cool solvers. There is a walk solver, which is basically procedural walking, where you have on curves, basically you're putting your legs up, down, and then you ground them in word space position, and you have a fake walking cycle that is completely procedural, and this is really cool. And there's one more, which is just called solver, and this is doing everything at once. This is a full body solver, and this requires setup of let me get here. Where did I put it? Oh, okay, in characters, and this requires to have a control rig. And inside the control rig, you can do a lot of controls and stuff, but right now I am just experimenting with this node called full body IK. So what I'm doing is you have those two events, one that is setup event, and in this setup event you just call all those handles, and you bind them to certain positions, and then you bind bones to those same positions, and then you have this full body solver. And okay, I don't need this one anymore. So you have this full body solver, and this full body solver is an amazing tool that allows you to adjust position of, let's make it bigger, adjust position of your entire character based on those points, and you can pose them as you like, and you can see that it is adjusting certain other bones in a specific way, and it is it's got really cool space of limits, almost like a ragdoll, and you could do really a lot of stuff, and you can make poses, and you can make some animations or some IK events based on that. And if you make it's just amazing. So once I finish this setup, it will be an input, and the Power IK nodes are manipulating those controls to set up the entire full IK for the entire character. So what it means, I could just store attachment points on a weapon and run another solver just for the foot, and without any animations whatsoever, you could have a shooter game animations without really running animations very easily. So that's it for today. I'm uploading this project, and I hope that this helps you in your further development. So see you guys soon. So just to record and showcase a real example of mockup animation, high quality character in a real environment with PowerIK. Well, here it is. So this character is running PowerIK on a quite complex environment, and it even works when crouching really well. So you can see like the direction bending of the joints, it's working when crouching. And if we take our weapon, we start to act a bit differently. We have a wider position, and even on stairs. That came a bit okay, yeah. So it's working, and even if we are, for example, rolling, you can see that the solver is taking. I have set like to, I think, 80 the blend speed, so it is slow enough to not break the roll animation. And let's find a ramp. And some stairs. And everything runs really smooth and nice. Okay, yeah, so just to showcase how well working this plugin is.